Today I'm out here in the rain to show you these 5 knots that I have strewn across my arm. These are the 5 knots that I've used the most frequently in my day-to-day as well as my outdoor trips. And today we're going to go through what each of these knots are, how to tie them, and also when you should use them, which is something that gets left out of a lot of knot tutorials, even I admit some that I've made in the past. So let's get started.
Let's start with the Taut-Line Hitch. This is probably my favorite knot of all time, and it's an adjustable loop knot. So you can see you can slide it in and out, giving it more tension or more space. Let's first talk about how to tie this knot. So the basic premise is you make a loop, and then on your main line, you make 2 little loops on the inside of your loop, and then you make an additional turn around the outside of your loop such that you have 3 total, 2 on the inside, 1 on the outside. You can kind of see how it goes like so, and then you tighten it all up, and this is the basic way a Taut-Line Hitch works. And then you can see it is adjustable here. Now let's talk about a few of the things you can actually use this for. So the first one is the guy line on a tent. You might have seen a little doohickey like this on a guy line that comes with your tent. You can actually replace that thing entirely with a Taut-Line Hitch. And so this is how you do that. I'll just tie one here real quickly, and you can see that this Taut-Line Hitch will allow you to still tension that guy line. And in a similar way, you can do a similar thing at a campsite or at home even to tie like a clothesline between 2 trees, and it has a lot of other applications. So that's the Taut-Line Hitch. Now let's cover the Bowline, which is sometimes called the king of knots because it's such an important one. This is basically what it looks like, but there are a ton of variations on the Bowline. In fact, there are so many, I made a video where I walked through 18 different variations of the Bowline. And so if you want to learn all about the Bowline knot, then I'll put a card to that video and you can learn more there. But we'll walk through just 2 basic ways of tying this. The first is the bunny method. And so for this, you make a little loop like so, and then you take your bunny, he comes out of the hole, goes around the tree, and then comes back in the hole like so. There you have yourself a Bowline. That's sort of the basic method. Now I'm going to show the method that I use most often, which is much, much faster. You turn it with the rope on the inside through the loop, pass it around the tree, if you will, and pull it back through. You can do this one really fast, like 2-3 seconds. Now, if you were wondering what was going on the other side of the guy line in our guy line example with the Taut-Line earlier, well, there was a Bowline on the other side holding it down. And so another application for the Bowline is just to make a fixed loop around a tent, and then you can put that Taut-Line on the other side. The same applies to clotheslines, and there are a ton of other applications of the Bowline. Now let's talk about the square knot. So the square knot is also called the reef knot because it was historically used for reefing or tying up sails. This is what it looks like here, and it's got a number of applications, but let's talk about how to tie it first. So basically what you do is you just go right over left, twist, then left over right, twist, and you've got yourself a square knot. So I should mention that you can check it just by making sure that your ends of your rope are coming out on the same side. And there's 2 loops coming together, so if you can do this, you probably have yourself a square knot. A common mistake is to go right over right or left over left, and that gives you a granny knot, which is incorrect. So this is wrong. And again, back to the square knot, this is often used for things like bundling, like firewood, and it can also be used for tying up bandages because the knot does lie flat. However, I should mention that this is not a proper bend knot, which is B-E-N-D, which means it can't really do a good job of tying 2 ropes together. And there's a few reasons for that. It's not strong enough if that's the application you need. And so we'll actually cover my favorite bend knot next. Here we have the double fisherman's knot. This is my bend knot of choice for attaching 2 ends of rope together. If you prefer the sheep bend, that is another really popular and great bend knot, but I like this double fisherman's knot, so that's what I'm going to show here. So for this knot, you have your 2 ends of line, and you got to make sure you give yourself plenty of slack, but basically then you're just going to make 2 loops across your line such that you get a figure 8 design like this. And if you bring the 2 ends of the figure 8 together, it's going to give you a bit of an X-shaped pattern here. And then what you do is you just pass your short end of your rope through and under that X such that you get a double overhand knot, which looks like this when it's all tightened up nice. And so then what you're going to do is you're actually going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So while I'm tying that one, let me just quickly tell you about some of the applications of this knot. I actually used this most recently for repairing the shock cord on a tent pole. I had a broken shock cord, and so I took the shock cord on both sides, ran it back through the poles, and then tied a double fisherman's knot because I knew that this was a strong knot that can really stick for a long time. In fact, it can get so tight that it's actually hard to get this apart. This also has applications in rock climbing as well as a number of other areas. But you can see once you get both ends of your knots together, both double overhand knots, you just pull it together, and it can get really, really tight. And you can check that you've done it right by seeing that you have an X on both sides. You can also check that you have the ends of your line coming out on different sides. And another thing you can look for is on the other side that you have 4 parallel lines there. So that's the basics of the double fisherman's knot. This is one I really like. Here we have the clove hitch, which is a simple knot that has some pretty interesting applications. For example, if you wanted to get into making lashings, which are necessary for making like bushcraft and pioneering projects like towers, or if you wanted to do a tripod lashing or something like that, a lot of those lashings start with a clove hitch or end with a clove hitch. And so I'm going to show you 2 ways to tie this knot. First of all is you can do it around an object like this. You make 2 passes around the object and you get this X pattern. Then you take the short end of your rope and you just feed it directly under and through that X. And there you have a clove hitch. So you just tighten it up and it's a pretty simple knot really. And once you have it, then that's it. And the other way that you can tie this is actually around like a post or an object that's oriented in this way. And then you just make a loop, and then you make a second loop, and you pass it over the first loop such that they're kind of combined. And then you can just take that and drop it directly over your post and tighten it up like so. And so this has some pretty interesting applications as well. I believe this is used in sailing, although I'm not a big sailor. But just imagine going to a boat dock, flip, drop that rope over like a post at a dock, and then you've got your boat tied up there. And so that's another way you can use this. I hope you've enjoyed this video overall. Hit the like button for me, and let me know if you have any favorite knots that I didn't cover here. I'm always interested to hear things like that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.